Imagine standing on the hills of ancient Greece, where great philosophers like Zeno, Epictetus, Seneca, and Marcus Aurelius once walked. Each of these remarkable individuals practiced and refined a philosophy that, despite being over 2,000 years old, continues to offer profound wisdom and practical guidance for modern life. It's called Stoicism. Welcome to this exploration of Stoicism, inspired by the Daily Stoic, a book by Ryan Holiday and Stephen Hanselman. Despite the vast difference in time and circumstances between us and the ancient philosophers, the fundamental questions remain the same. How should we live? What does it mean to live a good life? These questions are at the core of Stoicism, a philosophy not just for thinking but for living. Join me as we dive into Stoic teachings, uncover practical advice, and explore how this ancient wisdom can guide us in our daily lives today. Our journey into Stoicism begins with its founder, Zeno, who lived nearly 2,500 years ago. After losing his fortune in a catastrophic shipwreck, Zeno found himself in Athens, where he began studying philosophy. Out of loss and hardship, Stoicism was born, a philosophy built not on abstract theories but rooted in practical truths designed to help us live well. Stoicism teaches that virtue is the highest good, and that to live a virtuous life, we should cultivate four primary qualities: courage, wisdom, moderation, and justice. These qualities form the bedrock upon which Stoicism is built, guiding our actions and decisions. But what do these virtues look like in everyday life? How can we cultivate them? Let's start by examining ourselves, which is a crucial first step, according to the Stoics. For the Stoics, all philosophical inquiry begins with self-examination. Epictetus, a key Stoic figure, taught that we only begin to philosophize when we start questioning our emotions, beliefs, and the words we use every day. It's essential to investigate our own minds. Self-examination, however, is not an easy task. Ego, pride, and self-deception often stand in the way, making it uncomfortable to look deeply within ourselves. But as Epictetus wisely put it, it is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows. We must practice humility, remaining open and receptive like a good student. You might uncover weaknesses, bad habits, or even uncomfortable truths about yourself. Despite the pain, be persistent. Embrace the discomfort. Growth only comes when we honestly recognize and confront our shortcomings. Additionally, Stoicism urges us to also reflect on those we surround ourselves with. After all, the company we keep greatly influences the kind of people we become. As Seneca advised, consider keeping someone in mind whom you respect and admire, someone who acts as a silent witness to your behavior. By examining both yourself and others, you'll gain clarity, allowing you to make better decisions that align with Stoic virtues. In our modern world, distractions are almost impossible to avoid. The constant news cycle, social media notifications, endless to-do lists. How do we maintain focus amid all this noise? Although it seems that distractions have become more extreme, they're certainly not new. Even Marcus Aurelius, one of the great Stoic philosophers and a Roman emperor, dealt with his share of distractions. He advised that we approach each task as if it were our last. Whatever you're doing, whether it's mundane or monumental, imagine it's your final act before the end. Why should you take this seriously? Because this mental exercise clears the clutter from your mind. It sharpens your focus and increases the quality of your work. After all, if this is your last act, wouldn't you want it to count? Another key Stoic lesson for maintaining focus is recognizing that some things are simply beyond your control. For the Stoics, control is limited to one area, your own mind. When faced with a situation, don't worry about what's outside of your control, like the opinions of others or even bodily conditions like illness or injury. Focus solely on your mind and the choices you make as a result of your reasoning. To bring this into your daily life, establish a routine of reminding yourself of these Stoic principles. In the morning, reflect on what you can and cannot control. Midday, remind yourself that your primary ability is making choices. And before bed, consider all the matters you can leave to fate. Understanding these principles will free your mind from unnecessary burdens, enabling you to focus on what truly matters. Life is unpredictable. While we can't always control the situations we find ourselves in, Stoicism teaches us that we can always control how we react to them. Epictetus had a metaphor to explain this. He called it the two handles of every situation. Each situation can be handled in two ways, one that allows you to carry it and one that does not. For instance, let's say you've had a fallout with a close friend. You could grab the handle of resentment, focusing on their wrongdoings, which only drags you down. Or you can choose the handle of forgiveness, remembering your friendship and shared experiences, allowing you to lift the situation more gracefully. Take the example of William Seabrook, an early 20th century journalist who struggled with alcoholism. In 1933, he committed himself to an asylum seeking treatment. At first, he resisted, approaching the situation with a rebellious attitude. But then he recalled Epictetus's metaphor and realized he was holding the wrong handle, the handle of addiction rather than the handle of recovery. With this shift in mindset, Seabrook embraced the process and found a path to sobriety. By choosing a different handle, he achieved the result he desired. While you might not be battling addiction, this lesson can apply to nearly any situation. If your current approach isn't working, try grabbing the other handle. You might be surprised at how effective it can be. Let's face it, our minds are not always as rational or objective as we like to think they are. Stoicism recognizes this and offers insights on how we can think more clearly by being aware of our biases. Our minds are wired to make quick decisions, often based on past experiences. While this can be helpful, such as jumping out of the way if you hear a car's horn, it can also lead to mistakes. Think about meeting a stranger who reminds you of someone you disliked in the past. You might instantly feel hostility towards them, even though they've done nothing wrong. This snap judgment is just one example of how our minds can be biased. To counteract this, Stoicism advises us to pause and reflect before acting. Ask yourself, what assumptions am I making? What could I have overlooked? Could I be wrong about this? A little self-assessment can go a long way in avoiding mistakes and making better decisions. Marcus Aurelius suggested we should also look for cause and effect in our thoughts and actions. Understanding these patterns helps us to see where our biases might be influencing us. There's also a concept from the samurai swordsman Musashi, who, although not a Stoic, shared similar views. He differentiated between the observing eye, which sees things as they are, and the perceiving eye, which adds its own interpretation. The observing eye is the Stoic way, seeing things clearly without adding your own spin or biases. By practicing this, you can avoid unnecessary problems and focus on what truly matters. Every day we face countless choices, from the trivial to the life-changing. This abundance of choice can sometimes feel overwhelming, leading to analysis paralysis, where we might hesitate or make no decision at all. Stoicism offers a practical approach to overcoming this paralysis. Live life action by action, decision by decision. Start by imagining the kind of person you want to be. Then ask yourself, are my actions aligned with becoming that person? This thought experiment, though simple, can be incredibly transformative. Envision your ideal self, a person of courage, wisdom, moderation, and justice. Now, look at your current actions. Are they aligned with this ideal? If not, don't wait. Take action now. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, if you want to change something about yourself, the best time to start is today. Think of yourself as an archer. You can only hit your target if you aim and release the arrow. If you never take the shot, you'll never know what you're capable of. A key Stoic practice when making decisions is embracing the process. Yes, you should definitely set goals and aim high, but don't fixate solely on the outcome. Enjoy the journey with all its ups and downs. Epictetus liked to remind his students that no one is the perfect Stoic. Living a perfectly virtuous life is impossible, but that doesn't mean we should stop striving toward that ideal. Life is not about achieving perfection, it's about making progress one day and one decision at a time. Enjoy the process, and with each step you'll get closer to becoming the person you aspire to be. Goals, plans, ambitions, all of these are crucial for personal growth. But the reality is that life often throws unexpected obstacles in our way. So how do we effectively navigate these challenges? Stoics understand that while planning is important, no plan can account for every possible obstacle. Rather than getting frustrated when things don't go as planned, Stoics maintain flexibility and resilience. They see obstacles not as roadblocks, but as opportunities. One way to embrace the Stoic mindset when faced with challenges is by using what's called a reverse clause. This is essentially a backup plan. For example, if your computer crashes and you lose your work, instead of panicking, think of it as an opportunity to start fresh with a clearer perspective. Stuck in traffic? Use the time to catch up on an audiobook or podcast. The key is to never let an obstacle stop you, but see it as a chance to make progress elsewhere. Marcus Aurelius summed it up perfectly. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. In other words, the obstacle is not something to be feared or avoided. It's a stepping stone. It's a way to keep moving forward regardless of what life throws your way. In Stoicism, virtue isn't just a set of aspirational qualities. It's the highest goal in life. While we often chase money, power, or fame, these pursuits can lead us astray, potentially compromising our character. In contrast, virtue guides us toward what is truly important. Virtue, as the Stoics define it, consists of 4 elements: courage, wisdom, moderation, and justice. When these are your guiding principles, you cut through the noise and confusion of life. Let's say your primary goal is to make as much money as possible. The problem with this goal is twofold. First, there's never enough money, and second, you might find yourself doing things that compromise your integrity. On the other hand, if your goal is to live a virtuous life, acting courageously, wisely, moderately, and justly, then you won't sacrifice your morals just to achieve wealth. You may indeed become wealthy, but money won't be your sole focus or the defining aspect of your life, and it certainly won't be ill-earned. The pursuit of virtue is deeply personal. No one can make you do it. As Seneca observed, every noble deed is voluntary. Take Marcus Aurelius, for example. As Roman emperor, he was inundated with political, personal, and military responsibilities. Yet no one ordered him to act virtuously. He chose to do so. He committed fully to good character, good intentions, and good actions. He understood that we all have a stake in making the world a better place, beginning with how we treat others. Philosophy often gets labeled as abstract or too disconnected from reality, but not Stoicism. Stoic thinking is focused on achieving practical results, ensuring that you don't get lost in glorified ideals that lead nowhere. This focus on results isn't just about achieving goals. It's about getting things done, regardless of circumstances. For instance, many artists find themselves seeking the perfect environment or moment for inspiration. But here's the truth: the perfect conditions don't exist. The only way to conquer a creative block is to get to work, no matter the circumstances. This same mindset applies to practicing Stoicism. Stoicism isn't reserved for lofty ideals or special places like monasteries. It's for everyday real-world situations. It's about making progress and not letting the perfect be the enemy of the good. Saul Alinsky, a community organizer, argued that we shouldn't let our idealism limit us. First, we must accept the world as it is before attempting to change it. This practical philosophy doesn't weaken the desire for change, it strengthens it. Understanding things as they really are helps us take effective action, actions that yield real results. Stoicism teaches that no matter what life throws our way, we remain in control of who we are. The Stoics even created a powerful metaphor for this. They called it the inner citadel. Imagine your mind as a fortress, one that is completely within your control and impervious to any external threat. While external events might be beyond your control, your inner citadel remains untouched, unless you allow it to be compromised by your own thoughts and reactions. Take Cato the Younger, a Stoic known for his determination to be prepared for anything. He chose to wear simple clothes and walk barefoot, even though he could afford luxuries. Why? Because he wanted to ensure that he could handle any eventuality. To a Stoic, misfortune isn't something to be feared, it's an opportunity to grow stronger. In a more modern example, consider James Stockdale, a US pilot who was shot down and captured during the Vietnam War. During his time as a prisoner of war, Stockdale thought often of Epictetus's teachings. He faced brutal torture, but never allowed the experience to break his spirit. By drawing on Stoic principles, he maintained his integrity throughout his ordeal. Stockdale knew that while he had no control over his physical circumstances, he had complete control over how he chose to respond. This inner resilience is what kept him going. Ultimately, this is the essence of Stoicism, taking control of your own mind no matter what life throws at you. In the ancient world, violence and cruelty were common. People and animals were subjected to horrendous acts, often for sheer entertainment. Yet, during this era, Stoicism emerged, emphasizing the connectedness of all life. The Stoics called this principle sympathia, recognizing that every person and creature is part of a larger whole. In his meditations, Marcus Aurelius described this interconnectedness, illustrating how we're all like bees in a hive. What harms the hive harms the individual bee and vice versa. Therefore, acting in the best interest of the community is ultimately in our own best interest. However, doing the right thing, acting justly and ethically, doesn't always come naturally. The temptation to act selfishly or out of anger can be strong. Yet Stoics argue that these actions often bring us more harm than good. Consider this. Vomiting is often found at crime scenes because even the body reacts violently to unethical acts like murder. Acting against our own nature causes inner turmoil. A practical Stoic exercise is to ask yourself before taking any action, is this what the person I'd like to be would do? By holding yourself to this standard, you align your actions with right principles and contribute positively to the larger community you're a part of. As humans, we often regard hope as good and fear as bad, but Stoics see both as distractions. Both hope and fear focus on future events that are beyond our control. Instead, Stoics embrace a concept called amor fati, love of fate. Instead of wishing things were different, Stoics embrace the circumstances they find themselves in, no matter how challenging. Rather than wishing they could change external events, they change their internal desires to match their reality. This idea was vividly illustrated by Franklin D. Roosevelt, who, after being diagnosed with polio at 39, didn't despair. Instead, he accepted his fate calmly and worked toward what he could control. The result? He became one of the United States' most revered presidents. Similarly, Malcolm X used his time in prison not to feel sorry for himself, but to educate and better himself. By the time of his release, he was equipped with knowledge, conviction, and a deep sense of purpose, which he used to fight for civil rights. The Stoic art of acquiescence doesn't imply giving up or passivity. Instead, it channels energy into what we can control, leading to real progress and personal growth. Death is perhaps our greatest fear, but Stoicism teaches that there's no reason to fear it. In fact, Stoics believe that contemplating death gives us the motivation to live life to the fullest. Marcus Aurelius advised that we should live every day as if it were our last, not in a reckless way, but with courage and purpose. Each moment is an opportunity to act with virtue and leave a legacy that we'll be proud of when our end comes. The uncertainty of death is frightening because we don't know what awaits us. But the Stoics point out that if death truly is the end, then there's nothing to fear at all. Even death must come to an end. Seneca went so far as to reprimand friends who begged for his life during his execution, reminding them that the Stoic way is to accept death with grace and dignity. As Cicero once said, to philosophize is to learn how to die. For Stoics, philosophy isn't just intellectual exercise, it's practical wisdom to guide your life and help you face your end with peace. So what can we take away from this ancient philosophy today? Stoicism is a practical guide. It doesn't ask us to ponder abstract questions, but provides actionable steps to improve our lives and the world around us. By embracing these principles, you'll find yourself more focused, resilient, virtuous, and ultimately at peace with your life, knowing that you're on the path to becoming your best self. Finally, a piece of actionable advice. Don't seek happiness in external things. It might be tempting to chase after likes on social media or indulge in retail therapy, but true contentment comes from meaningful action. So the next time you're reaching for a temporary fix, pause and consider what lasting virtuous action you could take instead. Thanks for joining me on this journey through the Daily Stoic. Keep striving for wisdom, justice, courage, and moderation every day. Until next time, live your life with purpose and peace. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. Subscribe and hit the notification bell to be notified of new videos.